started with a simple question. I was scrolling through Reddit late one night, trying to escape the buzzing in my mind. It had been a long week, and I needed a distraction. So, I wandered into the darker corners of the internet, as you do when you're tired and curious. Subreddits like No Sleep, Let's Not Meet, and Creepy were familiar territory. I had read stories there before, some of which sent chills down my spine, while others were just unsettling enough to leave a lingering sense of unease. But I had never experienced anything like what was about to unfold. One post caught my eye. It was a simple question, just a few lines of text. What's the creepiest thing that's ever happened to you, and you didn't tell anyone? The answers started pouring in immediately. Some were predictable, people recounting eerie encounters with strangers in the dark or strange noises in their homes at night. But one comment stood out to me. It wasn't just creepy, it was disturbing. The user described an experience that felt like it had been ripped from a horror movie. I found something in my attic once, and I've never told anyone about it. My heart skipped a beat as I read on. The user detailed how they had recently moved into a new house, a quiet, old place on the outskirts of town. The kind of house that looked charming from the outside but had that something is off feeling once you stepped inside. Their parents had been excited about the move, but the user felt an instinctive discomfort the moment they crossed the threshold. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to be that person. The comment continued. The first few days were fine. We were unpacking, getting used to the creaky floors and the strange draft in the attic. But then, one night, I was up late, going through boxes in the living room. I heard a noise upstairs, a soft, scuffling sound. I thought it was just the house settling, but then I heard it again. It was louder this time, like someone was moving around up there. The user said they tried to brush it off, attributing it to their imagination. But then the sound became more distinct. It wasn't just the house. Someone, or something, was in the attic. The user waited in silence, listening carefully. The sound stopped, and then there was a soft thud, like something had dropped to the floor. Finally, they decided to go investigate. I grabbed a flashlight and went upstairs. The attic was locked, but the door wasn't all the way closed. I could see a thin sliver of light from the hallway, so I figured the door was just stuck or something. I gave it a little push, and the door creaked open. I didn't see anything at first, but when my flashlight swept over the floor, I froze. There, in the corner of the attic, was a small pile of clothes. But what really caught their attention was the faint outline of something beneath the clothes, something covered in a thick layer of dust. They approached cautiously, heart hammering in their chest, and pulled the clothes back. The comment paused, and I held my breath. My curiosity piqued. I wasn't sure if I wanted to know what they had found, but I had already read too far to stop. It was a box, a wooden box, with rusty metal hinges. It was old, but it wasn't just the age that made me shiver. It looked like it had been there for a long time. I was curious, but also terrified. I didn't want to open it, but I had to know what was inside. The user described how they finally gave in and opened the box. What they found inside was almost too horrible to describe. I wish I hadn't. Inside the box was a bundle of old, yellowed papers. But that wasn't what made my stomach turn. What really made my blood run cold were the photographs. Old, faded pictures of people I didn't recognize sitting in front of my house, sometimes in the yard, sometimes peering through the windows. They were taken years ago, maybe decades, but that wasn't the worst part. My mind was racing now. I didn't want to know, but I had to keep reading. The worst part was when I flipped through the stack and found a photo of myself. I was a kid, no older than 8 or 9, playing outside in the backyard. But here's the thing, I had never seen that picture before. I didn't remember anyone taking it, and it was taken long before we moved into that house. A cold chill spread through my body as I realized the implications. The user hadn't been the only one in the house before they moved in. Someone had been watching them for years, even when they were a child, and somehow had known they would end up in that very house. They ended the comment with a chilling sentence. I still find new photos, sometimes hidden in different parts of the house, of me and my family, but I don't dare go back to that attic anymore. I sat there for a moment, frozen, staring at the screen. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I had just read. I scrolled through the comments, but many of them were either responding with disbelief or offering their own creepy stories. The post was buried under hundreds of other comments, and I wondered if the user had ever responded to anyone or if they had just disappeared into the shadows of the internet. It wasn't until a few days later that I received a message from an unknown account. The message was simple, no introduction, just a few words. Did you like my story? I froze, staring at the message for a moment, unsure how to respond. I didn't recognize the username, but something about the message sent an icy jolt through my spine. I hesitated, not sure if I should engage. It was probably just some prank, someone having a bit of fun, but I felt that familiar unease creeping in. I ignored the message and went about my day, but the next morning I received another message. You should have paid closer attention. This time, there was a picture attached, a photo of my front porch taken from across the street, with the faint reflection of a figure standing in the window. The figure wasn't clearly visible, but I could make out the vague outline of a person, their face obscured. I stared at the image for a long time, my heart racing in my chest. My first thought was that it was a coincidence, maybe even a creepy coincidence. But the feeling of being watched was growing, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. I decided to check my Reddit inbox. There were no messages, no notifications from that user. It was like they had never existed. But then, a thought struck me. What if it wasn't just a story? What if it was more than a dark Reddit post? The unease grew with each passing day. Every time I left the house, I checked to see if anything looked different. I kept my blinds drawn, afraid of seeing someone lurking outside. I stopped using the attic altogether, even though I had no reason to believe that whatever the original user had encountered was connected to my home. Then, one night, I received another message. This one was different. No photo, no creepy words, just a link. And the link led to a post. Found something in my attic once, and I never told anyone about it. It was the same story, the same words, but it wasn't just the same. It was my story. Someone had found my account, read what I had written, and somehow they had found me. I never went back to Reddit after that. I deleted my account and moved to a different city, but the feeling of being watched never left. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside made me wonder, had I really escaped? Or was it just the beginning